Bad Neighbors by Tom. This is a crazy story that happened long ago and changed my life for the worst. Thank you so much, Logan. It means the world to me. I expressed my gratitude to my best friend for letting me be his roommate. You see, I met a friendly kid named Logan long ago. He was a wild fireball of energy. I had been friends with him ever since the 6th grade because he was just as much of a geek as I was. We never had fights, and any arguments were probably based on sci-fi garbage. I was expressing happiness to him because as soon as he turned 18, he tried a lottery ticket for the first time. Wouldn't you know it? He literally won on his first attempt. With the $10 million, he bought a house, a pretty nice house. I was 16 at the time, almost 17, and my parents were starting to become very angry with my educational performance and behavior in school. They were telling me that I needed a better paying job, probably because they wanted me out of the house. Logan decided to let me live at his place. After all, he didn't have a wife, yet he had 3 different bedrooms. Since he won millions, he had purchased the deed, meaning that he didn't spend months or years paying off the house. Before I knew this, I had made several promises to pay off the rent. I was so glad that he was letting me live there. We agreed that I would pay the water bills and electric bills with the money from my job. I chose a bedroom that was far from his to refrain from conflicting habits, or something like that. You see, this is how I wanted to live. Well, kind of. I am one of those creative types, with skills in music, art, and writing, but nothing that can afford much money. So I plan to have an average job, small house, and just write, draw, and compose on the side. I made a couple $100 every now and then from my skills, but I still felt as if it weren't enough. That was probably my 3rd time thanking him. He was willing to start off with the first 8 months worth of bills from some of the leftover money. It was both our 3rd day living there when we received a knock at the door. We answered it, and here's what changed our lives in a turn for the worst. "Hey," said a cheerful voice as soon as we opened the door. "What's up?" Logan replied to the woman before us, holding a delicious-looking pie. She gave it to us because she was excited to be our new neighbors or something. So we thanked her. She walked back to the house across the street, which we had believed was abandoned from the disgusting looks. I remember walking back to the sofa with Logan, who opened the pie and got us forks. We were pretty lazy still, so we both just ate it right from the metal tray. It was a Sunday, full of Netflix and pie. Logan had eaten 2 pieces of pie before I had finished 1 piece. A few minutes later, we were in the 8th episode of the 2nd season of Bleach, when Logan dropped his fork as he passed out. "Logan!" I tried shaking him awake. His face was pale. I tried slapping him and dumping cold water on him, but none of that worked. I called 911, knowing that the ambulance ride might cost some money, but Logan would probably pay for it. After all, it was for his own sake. "What seems to be the problem?" said the operator. "My friend passed out. Like, he had just finished some pie when he just collapsed. I tried water. I slapped him and did whatever I could." "Okay, slow down." I explained the situation again. An ambulance came and picked him up. I skipped my lunch period the next day because I was still in high school and drove over to the hospital where I saw that he was alive in the hospital bed. "Logan," I said, glad to see him. "Hey, man," he replied weakly. "What happened?" Apparently, I had eaten rat poison or something. They put me on some medication and other shit that might help. Guess we better be careful of what we eat. I started to think back on everything that we had eaten that day. The first thought that came to mind was the pie. It had to be. We had bought nothing poisonous. For dinner the previous night and breakfast on the day of the event, we had a large Domino's 2-topping pizza. It was the pie, I said out loud, more to myself than to Logan. You really think so? Think about it, man. We don't know how the pie was made, what it was made of, or where. Probably. No, not probably, I said confidently. It has to be. We'll confront them tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, here. I handed him some money for the medical bill. Nah, Tim. I already used a check. After all, it was me who collapsed. Thank you, though. I lightly sighed. I felt pretty lame for not being able to pay him for this. I soon figured that there were bigger things to deal with. The pie. The next day was a Tuesday, the day that Logan and I woke up early to confront the neighbor. We walked over to the house that we watched her return to and rang the bell. The doorbell seemed to be broken, so we knocked loudly. What the hell was that for? Bringing us poisoned pie and now hiding from it? Logan said. Alright, guess we'll check later, I concluded. We started walking across the road, not even having to look back and forth to know that drivers were far from this little out-of-the-way neighborhood. We then saw some guy rush out of his house. It was a tall and pretty ripped man. He had a bright orange beard, glasses, and an orange ponytail to match. He stopped us halfway. You guys do know that that house is abandoned, right? He said. I guessed that he was about 22 years of age. Who are you? Logan said. We had no formal introduction to this neighbor, so I found that question to be ridiculous. However, the man seemed to ignore the question anyway. No one has ever lived in that house for the last 10 years. Thanks for letting us know, I said. I'm Timothy. I'm Rick. We shook hands, but Logan did a fist pump because he was apparently too cool for shaking hands. Rick returned to his small house soon after. It seemed like our house. Logan prefers our house instead of Logan's house, something that I'm not mad about, was the largest house on the street. We went upstairs and sat by a big window that lets us view the big river behind our house along with the beautiful sunset. We were both creating posts on, I use so many social media sites and apps that only God can tell you which one I used that day. How the hell can that house be abandoned? I said. I don't know. Although, we do know that it has to be the pie. We'll find out eventually, Logan replied in defeat. Alright. I also drank some of his medicine when he wasn't looking, because I had eaten the pie as well. Within a month, we felt better than ever. I had raised my grades, Logan got a small job at a market, and we had finished lots of anime. Since it was April, summer was looking great for us. We had no trouble or arguments over anything. I had raised my grades to at least B's, and we were both in shape. We liked to take hikes on the hills and in the woods, making up for the amount of junk food and shit that we ate. A few months later, we had forgotten about the pie incident since school ended. Logan installed a hot tub. I got a girlfriend, and basically everything was looking great for us. Life was perfect. I was at McDonald's one day, about to order a McChicken without the lettuce and sauce, and all the other unnecessary shit that they put on it when Logan called me.
Dude, what the fuck did you do with everything?
He yelled. What do you mean?
Food, my iPad, the Xbox, and a whole bunch of other shit is gone.
I'll get home to check it out. I ended the call. I was hungry enough to still purchase the McChicken. When I got home, I saw Logan on the ground, looking through cupboards. An officer was there, taking notes. "Please tell me that you know where everything is," Logan yelled as he perked up. "I didn't do anything. I haven't been home all day." "Well, then we've been fucking robbed." "Shit," I said. I walked into my room. The strange thing was that my computer, microphone, mouse, monitor, some childhood toys, and great valuables were still there. Pictures in my old iPhone 5 were missing. Fuck, my pictures are gone. "We'll try to find out what happened," said the officer. "In the meantime, purchase some new security tools. I mean, you won the lottery and all." Almost everyone in town had heard of Logan's big win. "Yeah, that's what I planned." Logan rolled his eyes, facing away from the cop. The officer soon left, but offered to patrol the area for another hour. I stayed at the house while Logan went to Best Buy to pick up some cameras. He later returned with a box of big cameras. He asked to borrow my computer, which I let him. He watched YouTube tutorials on how to hook up the camera to a CCTV system, meaning that the computer footage would stream to my computer and monitor, and all of the accessories mentioned earlier was moved to a different room. The monitor would display the footage. I went to sleep, taking me a while because of how pissed I was. Eventually, some sleeping pills did the trick. Logan slept downstairs because he was paranoid of the robbers returning. He hoped to catch them in the act. Luckily, they didn't return. The next day, Logan and I were discussing random topics on the couch. What if we got a boat for the river behind the house? Okay, we're spending money way too fast. We should probably only give ourselves hundreds at a time and save the rest in case of another emergency like this. Good idea, but I was only talking about those small paddle boats. Ah, maybe. I heard that they give pretty good exercise. Cool. My girlfriend Ava called me. I answered.
"Tim, you haven't answered in weeks. How are you?"
She said loudly. Well, we got robbed. I guess that's something.
"Oh my gosh. What was stolen?"
Pictures, my old phone, some food, some of Logan's clothes. As to illustrate my point, Logan yelled, "Fuck, he took my Cancun, Mexico shirt," as he dug through his closet. They also took the Xbox. I continued.
"Geez, that sounds awful."
Yeah, but it won't happen again.
"Getting a little too confident now,"
she said in a joking manner. Nah, we got a CCTV camera system installed. Oh, I gotta go. Call me sometime. Love you.
"Love you too. Bye."
Bye. I hung up. I didn't appreciate that phone call. She kept reminding me of what I was attempting to forget, making a big deal of the robbery. It was the normal response, but I still heaved a heavy sigh. The next time that we entered the grocery store, we passed down an aisle with fresh fruit. It smelled delightful. Logan was willing to get some since it would benefit us both and give us a break from the junk food. The house didn't have a garage, so we had to park on the side of the road. On my second trip outside getting the grocery bags from the car, I saw Rick playing Minecraft. During the school year, Logan and I had built a castle. When I saw that Rick was messing with our castle, my blood boiled. I rushed inside with the bags. Dude, Rick is destroying our castle on Minecraft, I said through clenched teeth. But that's our castle, not some downloadable map. Exactly. Let me go check it out, he said, slipping his feet into some boots. Crickets chirped in the cool breeze of the very dark blue night sky as we watched through the window. Let's go confront him, I said, marching over. Logan tugged at my arm. Wait, he said. What? All right, let's call the police. Nah, I got a better plan. We went inside. We'll get it back on our own. What? That's just crazy. He stole that, meaning that he stole everything else. So we'll steal that shit back and more. I was tired beyond the point of arguing. Besides, it didn't sound too bad. He went on to describe it as the non-pussy way of dealing with the situation. The next morning, I waited at the window and watched as Rick got into his car and left.
Go, go,
I said to Logan on the walkie-talkie. He was already behind the house. He picked the lock of the house, which didn't even have a deadbolt lock. The plan was for me to patrol the area from inside of our house so that I could warn Logan in case Rick came back. I watched through Rick's window as Logan stuffed the Xbox into a bag and started taking random things from Rick's shelf. He took out the Xbox and pointed to something on it. I couldn't tell what it was until I realized that he was pointing to a scratch on the Xbox that only our Xbox ever had. This confirmed it. He got my old phone back too. When I saw him come out of the back door to Rick's house, I leaped down the stairs and opened the back door of our house. He rushed inside, heavily breathing. Thanks, man, I said as I grabbed my old iPhone back. I wonder why his house didn't have a deadbolt lock. Well, that's a good thing. Logan stood there, still heavily breathing. Wait, he said, I'm thinking about moving out. Why? Over a robbery that we just defeated? Well, yeah, that and the pie thing. Rick said that house was abandoned. I said more to myself than to Logan. Then let's explore it. Wait, before you do, Rick is the kind of person that would rob us. He could have lied to us as well. We'll need to confirm that with him. Oh gosh, that will be awkward as hell. After we just robbed him, it will feel weird talking to him. Or we can catch him before he goes inside. Smart idea. We'll confirm it right then and there. We always saw his ratty old car pull up around 6 o'clock every day. And since it was summer, Logan and I had some time to kill. I invited Ava to go to Krispy Kreme with Logan and I. She then scolded me for bringing Logan into everything we did. I didn't feel like arguing. We never talked to each other anyway. And at a time like this, I didn't want to have a girl to care about during the situation. We ended up breaking up, neither of us feeling angry about it. Besides, the only reason she wanted me was because Logan had purchased a hot tub. Logan and I played tennis at the park for the day and almost forgot to return home at 5:45. We went home in time to see Rick's old car pull up. I hopped out and walked over to his car door. When I saw him get out, I became lightheaded. He's really tall and pretty buff, despite his hippie look. Hey, remember when you said that house was abandoned? I felt so much pressure while talking to him. Just being in his presence felt awkward. Yeah, it's been abandoned for the past 10 years. But yeah, nobody lives there anymore. Okay, thank you, I said, walking over to our car. It is abandoned, I whispered to Logan. Let's go. He opened the car door and walked to the house. I followed him. We knocked on the door for one last confirmation. The tinted windows were broken, so I guess we took that as another sign that it was abandoned. Logan jumped over the fence, which I then did the same. Their lawn was unkempt and full of weeds. Looking back on it, we should have brought some sort of weapon. The back door was literally open. We walked inside to see that all of the wood on the floor and the walls were scratched up. There was a ripped sofa in the middle of nowhere. We took notice that this house was designed exactly like ours, but taller, and the staircase was in a different place. We slowly walked up the steps and into the one room that was upstairs. The whole house was dark. However, It was being illuminated from the broken windows, letting the orange glow of the sunset pour into the room. Aside from the orange glow and grayish-green decaying colors of the house, something brought attention to my eye. I spotted a wall full of freshly printed Polaroids. I walked over to them and nearly threw up. "Dude, come over here," I said to Logan. He walked over and gasped. We were gazing at a picture of Ava. The other Polaroids were of random people. Logan took a picture with his phone. Suddenly, rapid footsteps startled us as someone was coming up the stairs. Logan and I looked at each other with wide eyes. "What do we do?" he whispered. The person was now at the top of the stairs. There was someone in this house. Was it not abandoned? I broke enough glass to jump into the bushes below. Logan followed, landing on me as we bolted back to our house. We saw Rick creepily staring at us through his window. We pretended to ignore it and continued inside. However, that stare still haunts me. "Holy shit," Logan said slowly. We vented our thoughts for an hour. I started to eat some strawberries. "This whole thing is a setup," I said. "Huh?" "First the pie, then the robbery, then this. This is all some sort of scam. Now that we broke into Rick's house, it will be impossible to report anything. Also, that house may not be abandoned." "You know what?" Logan stood up. "Let's fight back." "What?" "They steal and mislead us. So now, we'll return the favor. Clearly, this isn't a coincidence. That creep stared us down as we returned home. How would we get them back?" I knew that Logan was right, however. I didn't process what he had in mind. Sure, this whole thing was definitely a setup, but how would we create the same kind of scheme? "I don't know. Maybe pranks? Just don't worry, we'll find a way to retaliate." That day, we left, making all of our movements low-key, as we drove off to get some pranking supplies. I decided that paying for the supplies was on me. We got some rat traps, a Polaroid camera, whoopee cushions, and various other materials. The next day, we didn't see Rick leave. "Shit," Logan said. "He should have left by..." "Oh." I then realized that to our misfortune, it was a Saturday, meaning that Rick was probably not going to work. "We'll ask around," Logan suggested. "Huh?" "We'll ask other neighbors about the house and Rick." "Good thinking, Logan." "Thanks." We walked across the street to the house next to the abandoned one. We knocked on the door and heard a psychotic scream. We both raised an eyebrow. I could tell that Logan was paranoid as he kept looking back at Rick's house. A middle-aged woman answered the door with an angry expression on her face. As soon as we started to form a syllable, her teenage daughter started screaming like an asylum patient. The middle-aged woman locked her in a room and got back to us. I was now slightly shaking. "Is the house next to yours abandoned?" I could hear a slight shake in my voice. "As far as I know." "Well, we saw someone come out of that house and gave us a pie. The pie was poisonous, so we went to confront her, but Rick said that the house was abandoned." "A man beat his wife to death in that house, and it's been abandoned ever since. The woman was said to have Munchausen syndrome." "Whoa." I looked at Logan. His eyes had widened. "Thanks for the information," I concluded. She slammed the door in our face before we started to make our way back to our own. "So here's what we know about all of the shit going on," Logan said. He started to speak what he wrote down as he was writing it. "Neighbor gives us poison pie before returning to abandoned house. neighbor robs us after informing us that the house was abandoned. We got our shit back, explored the house, found weird pictures, escaped as someone chased us, received creepy stare from Rick, and neighbor next to abandoned house says that a husband beat his wife to death there, and that the wife he had a little trouble spelling Munchausen, so I obviously helped him. Thinking back on the whole experience, we should have just moved. You see, Logan didn't buy some gorgeous mansion with the money. He bought a smaller house in an apparently shitty neighborhood so that he could own the deed. The next day, I set up mouse traps, used fishing twine to create other contraptions, and basically set up the whole abandoned house for a troubling entry. Even if someone did live here, they were in on some sort of scheme. Why else would there be a Polaroid of Ava? We also placed fishing twine in front of Rick's house. This wasn't just for pranking. We had a plan. "Here he comes," Logan whispered to me. We jumped to the front door and ran to his house in time to see him trip and fall. Logan ran at him and pinned him to the ground. "What's going on?" Logan yelled at Rick, who was unable to move. We were going to confront him without weapons. "What the hell do you mean?" he pleaded. "You know what I mean. The abandoned house, Polaroids, fucking robbing us?" He laughed. "This isn't some fucking game." "You can't do anything to me," he said. "Are you kidding? We could have you arrested for burglary. You also lied to us about the house, and we know that you had something to do with it. You stared us down like an insane stalker." "And what about the Polaroid of my girlfriend?" I said. "Arrested? That's funny." He got up and shoved Logan out of the way. "You stole back, and I'm not the stalker if your security cameras are so close to my windows." We all looked at the cameras and back at each other. "Of course we'd keep a close eye on you after you robbed us. This isn't a game," Logan repeated. "Oh, and who was that? Who literally poisoned us with pie?" "I don't know. We watched her walk into that house that you said was abandoned, and when it was not, you stared us down. What the hell was that all about?" He looked in a certain direction and started laughing. "I looked and saw a woman who had poisoned us with pie, taking a picture of us with a Polaroid camera. The flash was on. That was it. I ran toward her as she stormed off. I chased her. I ran. As she closed gates, I jumped over them, being faster and much more agile. She eventually entered the abandoned house through the front door where I hadn't set up pranks. She tried closing it, but I kicked it down. She tried running upstairs but tripped over fishing twine. I held her down. "You fucking poisoned us, but you broke into my house," she said softly. "I know that you're setting us up. Why?" And that's when everything blacked out. "Dude," Logan was shaking me. I sat up. I was on the stairs in the abandoned house. "I've been searching for you. Where am I? It's like 1 a.m. I've been searching for a long time. We're in the house. While searching, I got another idea." "What is it?" I said, getting up. He explained it as he slept next to me on our couch when he returned home that night. The whole plan sounded great. We were going to make the assumption that the pie woman and Rick were married. We were going to check Rick's contacts and try to find her. Once we did, we would text her to go to the abandoned house, where we would execute the plan. "Are you sure that this is going to work?" I asked. "Trust me, this will solve everything." I then fell asleep. When I woke up the next morning, I was placed in a chair facing Rick's house. I watched through the window as Logan ran back with a phone in hand, holding it up. I instinctively knew to run down and opened the door for him, taking me a couple of minutes to remember the plan. Heavily breathing, he closed the door and locked it. Then Deadbolt locked it. "Distract him," he whispered, pointing at the window. Rick was staring in, angrily pounding on the glass. Logan ran into the bathroom and tried calling contacts. I flipped off Rick and proceeded to take a picture of him and say, "Smile, you're on camera." He angrily grunted. Logan came out of the bathroom a few minutes later and launched Rick's phone at the window, breaking it and hitting Rick in the head. Rick crouched to pick up his phone. In that time, we went upstairs to jump out the only window on the opposite side of the house. The plan was working. We could hear Rick pounding on our house as we ran down the street through people's yards. "Okay, so I got his phone," Logan said while running, and tapped the first contact that popped up, a woman's name, assuming that it was the pie lady, and checked the text. They had talked about poisoning the pie. I would have read more, but I quickly texted her to meet at the house. I then locked Rick's phone with a password before throwing it at the window. "You paid a lot for that house." "Yeah, but we're moving out." We then crossed the street and sprinted down the alleyway of that block. We climbed over the fence to the backyard of the abandoned house, where we saw the pie woman. She tried to run, but Logan shot a tranquilizer dart at her, knocking her down. We brought her into the house and dragged her up the stairs. "Are you ready?" Logan said. "Yeah, man. Ready as all hell." We perked the unconscious body of the pie lady up against the broken window. "Come get her, Rick," I shouted through a megaphone. His eyes widened. This was definitely his wife. "Cut the shit and tell us what's going on, and we'll let her go." Rick didn't know what to do. He couldn't do anything to stop this, besides admit he was defeated. Suddenly, the door to the room swung open. I frantically turned around to see the middle-aged lady with her psychotic roommate. I had no idea what the fuck was going on. The plan had fallen from beyond our control. What were we supposed to do next? Logan aimed the tranquilizer gun at the lady. He played it smart, backing up toward the wall from beyond the window. He then tranquilized the psychotic one. I was watching Rick's every move. We had won. Almost. We still needed the truth. "You want to know the truth?" the middle-aged woman said. "Please. That's your shed." She pointed to Rick's house. "No, it is." I cut myself off to ponder the thought. It didn't have a deadbolt. It was oddly close to our house, and it was significantly smaller than any other house on the block. Holy fucking shit. "You mean to tell me," Logan said, "Rick's been living in the shed, terrorizing people for as long as we can remember?" I didn't know how to comprehend this. "What are you doing here?" Flashing red and blue lights came as a siren rang out from the distance. "That's your ride to prison." "What the fuck do you mean?" "You see, this is Rick's house. That's your shed. And you tranquilized my daughter, as well as Rick's wife. Also, you stole from Rick." "Stole back," I said through clenched teeth. "Still a felony." Logan and I booked it through the back door. We could hear the cops yelling up to the window. They couldn't see us in the alleyway. We jumped over the fence of a house on the other side of the block and ran to the woods. Logan was making a phone call, and I heard him say something about switching to Plan B. "Where are we going?" I asked Logan as we sprinted through the woods. He ignored the question. He kept running, so I followed until we were at the edge of the woods, where a large U-Haul van was parked. Logan told me to get in the back. We're still not sure if riding in the back of a U-Haul is illegal or not, but we were past the point of caring about legal and illegal after what we just went through. There, I saw all of our belongings. Logan had planned this all out. I waited in there for hours, sleeping on the couch. I woke up to the door of the van opening and someone saying, "Come on, man." I looked up to see Logan. "Where are we?" "The new house," he said rather excitedly. "What?" He explained that he put the old house up for sale on some website for only a couple $1,000s, therefore someone bought it overnight. When I got out of the truck, I saw that the new house was in the middle of dead shit nowhere, something that we would want after an experience like this. We have open fields of grass and a way bigger house. We both work online and have food shipped. We play sports and jog through the plains and swim in the creek behind our house. My parents would probably turn us in if I told them, knowing who they are, so I only told them that Logan and I just simply moved. They still come to visit. We avoid social situations as much as possible, and we never live close to anyone again. I mean, everyone has bad neighbors, but did your neighbors get as bad as this?